like to turn it over to Jaime, who's going to be talking, who's going to be our table topics master. And welcome, Stephen. Glad to see you made it.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The purpose of the Topics Master is to facilitate table topics where guests and members will have the opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking. I will introduce the topic and call on a speaker who will be given 2 minutes to speak on the subject. So for this task, I will pick randomly in a few questions. And I'd like to start actually with Ranjita. So Ranjita, this question, I like it for you. So what is your favorite holiday tradition? You're muted.
Thank you. Christmas is one of our favorite holidays because we're all home, even though now we're always home. But my son is home, and Christmas Eve, we have a tradition, and this is something that I found out from my husband's side of the family. When my mother-in-law was well, we used to spend Christmas Eve with her as an extended family, and we used to have fondue. I don't know how many of you had fondue, but it was the big thing. So we started having that tradition. So every Christmas Eve, we will have a cheese fondue and a meat fondue. And then Christmas Day, when we're all opening presents and my son is all excited, we have Dutch baby pancakes. So, of course, food is a very important part of our tradition. And that is something that we have kept. When my son is coming home, that's what he's looking forward to. Yeah. And actually, I forgot, we also have a Christmas tree, a real Christmas tree that we pick up. So these are the things that makes Christmas so much fun. As a family, we look forward to this. Back to you.
Thank you, Ranjita. I like that. Next, I'd like to call on Frank. This next question is for you. What is your most memorable childhood holiday?
I think it's gonna be the same like Regina, Christmas. And the reason why is because you know, when I was a kid, like I think under 15 years old, we used to go visit my grandparents in Tijuana, Mexico. And believe it or not, like all my cousins from my mom's, because it was my grandmother from my mom's side, and all she has she had 6 kids, and those 6 kids had 6 kids apiece. So it's like, I mean, if you do the math, I think, what is that, like 6 times, no, well, yeah, at least 36 and yeah, 36. But it seemed like a lot more people. It seemed like, I think maybe like 50 people or something that showed up, because, well, there was other people in Tijuana that would also join. So it was like 50 people that we would join. And believe it or not, we all would stay at my grandma's house, all 50 of us.
Wow.
and she had a 2-bedroom house. So we were all sleeping on the floor. Like we had like families with their kids. And then we did it later on. Also later on as adults too. So but then we had the families, you know, the families with their kids, like sleeping on the side. Like we would see, where could we sleep? In the kitchen, in the living room, and maybe 1 bedroom, maybe 2-3 families there or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and then it was so great. Like everybody, we would do all these games, you know, as a huge family. And it was just like, I just missed that. It was really great that we would all get together, and it was all for Christmas. We would all get together. That was the only time we were together, all of us. Back to you, Mr. Table Talkers Master.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank, for sharing that. I saw myself sleeping in there like a sardine in the middle of the kitchen. All right. So the next question goes to Joanne. Joanne, when you think of the holiday season, what smells comes to your mind?
Let me see. First off, it would be the pine smell of Christmas trees, which I really love because we always had a fresh Christmas tree growing up, although now I do artificial. But it brings me back to this time. I used to live in Coyote Valley, and a lot of people would have Christmas tree farms out there. So I thought it was a fun family activity to go get the Christmas tree together. But after a while, laying in the grass on a cold day, trying to chop down that thing, I kind of had second thoughts, and I started going to Target. But one time, there was a horrible problem happened in the Coyote Valley. The Christmas trees were attacked by the Japanese beetle, and they all had these growths on them. So I went into the Christmas tree farm with all the family, and then I felt really sorry for these people that had worked so hard. And other people were walking in and saying, what the? And then they said a bad word and walked out. I looked over and the owner was talking about the Japanese beetle. And my little daughter is saying to her, now, was it a Japanese beetle or was it a Chinese beetle? But finally, I got a tree anyway, and it had this big growth on it, but I just turned it against the wall so no one would see it. And later on, my son would remark that Christmas tree really sucked. But it did smell nice. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, so I'd like to call now, and if you may, Brian, I'll ask you this question. What special dishes do you prepare for your holiday meal? You or your family, if you don't cook?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I will try and answer it without being non sequitur. I think that's the first time I've ever used that word in a sentence. Anyway, it's interesting because growing up, I ate a lot of junk food, and that hasn't changed that much over the years. But my diet consisted a lot more of meat and things like steak. And I used to love to sit down and make a salad and steak. And that would be a great meal for me for Christmas. Of course, I've always been very partial for Thanksgiving of having turkey and gravy and stuffing. I've actually only tried to cook a turkey once. I was in college at the time, and I was living in a housing that was across from the University of San Diego, which is where I went to school. And during this particular year, I decided I was going to cook my own turkey. And we had this stove, which had to have been 20 years old. And I couldn't get it to light. Now, at the time, I had a beard and a mustache, and I kept trying to light. I was trying to light the pilot light, and suddenly it caught on, and this flame leaped out of the oven and just singed all of the hair on my face. And that smell did not leave for literally months. That's the closest I've ever come to creating a Thanksgiving dinner. I've never tried it since then. I do like cooking, but when it comes down to Thanksgiving, I'd rather let someone else do it for me. Thank you for that question.
Thank you for sharing that. You should try. You should try again. All right. For the next question, I'd like to call on Deanne. Deanne, what is the funniest thing to ever happen during a holiday reunion? Was a hard one.
I do not have any funny stories of any holiday reunions. How pathetic is that? I can't think of a single one. Now, maybe that's because a lot of situations in my childhood with my family were highly dramatic, and I blocked out a lot of memories. But I would bet if somebody were to hypnotize me, I would bet we'd come up with all kinds of crazy, dramatic, wacky stories. I just cannot recall them at the moment. And that's rather an interesting question. So I'm going to switch it a little bit. Last week was Thanksgiving. And many of you here know that my youngest daughter is continuing on in graduate school, and she's in Italy right now. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Italy. However, there are a few American students. She has some friends there. In fact, one of them who was at her undergrad school, she had some classes with, is there as well. They've turned out to be very close friends. And her roommate is not American, but she's like very traditional, really grounded, and wants to make a Thanksgiving meal. In the past, she's only contributed in the household by making a pumpkin pie. So she's putting together an entire Thanksgiving meal in a different country where they don't celebrate Thanksgiving, and she cannot find pumpkin, she cannot find cranberry, and she had to traipse all over town in order to find a turkey, which barely fit in their oven because the ovens there are really small. She managed to make her turkey, her gravy. She made a sweet potato pie, and I think she found dehydrated, like dried fruit cranberries, which she rehydrated and smashed up and made cranberry sauce. That may be the most unusual holiday that I was never a part of, but I will remember that one. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Deanne. Do we still have time? Nope. All right. Well, just a quick recap. Ranjita responded to the question about the favorite holiday tradition. Frank, the most memorable childhood holiday. Joanne, the smell
tree.
of the holiday season. Brian, a dish that he prepared. And Deanne, the funniest thing that ever happened. All right, so we have time to vote. Is it right now the time?
Yes.
All right, thank you, and back to you, Madame Toastmaster.